So here we are with the Jorge Estrada, JR Canest. Thank you so much, sir, for taking some time to hang out.
Of course. Thank you.
Great to see you. So let's dive right in. You worked at Giant Ant for a number of years. You were doing kind of some different stuff. You were with Buck a little bit before that. Tell me about your time at Giant Ant and then your decision to leave and go freelance.
Yeah. So I started at Giant Ant. I mean, the reason why I really left Buck was so I can move back here to Vancouver. Personal reasons. My girlfriend at the time was here. Now she's my wife. So that was the main reason. And I was like, okay, Buck's great, LA's great, but
Yeah, smart man, smart man.
Yeah. So I started like emailing people and studios that I knew in Vancouver. And at the time, even now, it's not like Vancouver has crazy studios. Now, definitely more so. But back then, it was like I had a friend who was thinking about, well, he wasn't really a friend. He was just someone I knew from school. Was started doing some 3D stuff. I was thinking about starting a motion side. And then there were a few other kind of agency interactive that were kind of looking for motion designers. Anyway, I emailed everybody I knew. And among the people I emailed was a friend from school, Sean Hyde, because I heard that he'd been working at this studio called Giant Ant. And I'm pretty sure you can still find their reel when I started there. I think it's a 2010 reel. It's somewhere in their Vimeo. And if Jay is listening, he might just go and take it down. Yeah. But I think you can still find it there. So you can see, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it's definitely years from what it is now.
Sure.
Yeah. And they are kind of like the only ones who actually replied to me. And they're like, well, we're not really looking, but like maybe we can work something out in the future. And I was like, well, like right now I'm taking a bit of a break. I was taking a project in Hong Kong. And I was like, so I can wait. And eventually Jay offered me the job after a few Skype calls. And I was like, sweet. I got a job. Like I wasn't even like, I got a job at Giant Ant because didn't even know what Giant Ant was. I was like, I have a job. That's great. So let's go. And so I started there in September 2011, I believe, or somewhere in 2011. And it was mostly just kind of animating. They had a fairly even split at that time between live action and animation. And so there was a lot of like animation on live action and stuff like that. And it seemed like they were getting more into animation. And that's kind of what draw my attention to them. It's like every reel looked better than the one before, and they were getting into animation. I was like, okay, there's something kind of cool about this place. And the people were amazing, like Sean and Jay and Leah and Teresa and everybody. Just such a great team. So I started there just as an animator, and then naturally kind of due to the nature of projects and the fact that I kind of knew some people in the industry, I was like, oh, why don't we bring in Phil Borst to help us with this project? And they were like, oh, cool, yeah, let's do it. And then, kind of started building almost unintentionally a stronger portfolio by working with other people. And then we would just, get excited about projects that probably we should have said no, just because there was opportunity to do something cool in animation. And that kind of naturally led me from just an animator to more of a art director role, I guess, which is what I did for the majority of time when I was there. And yeah, and then after a few years, kind of the studio started growing more and getting more into animation and bringing in more animators. We brought in Nicholas and Enrique, and we brought in all the classic Giant Ants.
Yeah.
So I kind of helped grow the team, I guess, in a way, and convince people to bring these people on. And it was a few years, and then kind of I started also more leading projects and helping out Jay with projects that he could manage or whatever. So naturally also kind of progressed into more of an associate creative director. And yeah, I was there for 4.5 years total, almost 5 years.
Made some okay work. You guys did some all right.
Oh yeah, I was talking to Jay the other day. It was like we made some weird stuff back then. Like you look at it, and it's very daring, stuff like that we wouldn't do now because there's a certain reputation now. But back then, you're you have nothing to lose almost, and you just go crazy, and it was actually quite fun. But yeah, we did some cool stuff. Then one of the main things for me is that ever since even finishing school, I had this, you could say, dream, I guess, to always kind of start my own thing, whatever that meant. And in many ways, that actually started even when I was a buck. Like sometimes I would try to do a freelance project on the side, like kind of like directing some projects. We did the biggest story thing, which was all kind of like as a side project, and like Blend kind of happened at the same time. And I always had all these side things, and I was like, well, I wonder, it would be cool one day I could just focus on all these side things. And a few other things happened, kind of moving and kids, and like Giant was about to enter the next phase of like their work and stuff. And I was like, this might be a good time to kind of like pursue this little bug that has been in my head for so long and see if we can pull it off.
That's a good time to start your own business, is right after you have a kid.
Exactly.
Perfect timing.
So yeah, that was basically the main reason. It just seemed like the right timing, and it was something that I've been wanting to do since I left school. So
yeah,
it was no other than that, because I mean, I still love everybody there, and I still work with them when I can and stuff. So
I mean, yeah, you mentioned to me years ago when I came to Vancouver, you were very gracious with your time to sit down and gave me the tour, and
right,
you mentioned it then.
Yeah, that's right.
But can you tease any of what's coming next? Can you talk about any of what's
Yeah. So I mean, I basically tried out the freelance life for about a year, and it became very clear to me that I was more interested in kind of like working with clients and building an entire team, like working as a solo studio, more so than helping out 1 week with whatever project with a given studio. Like I just found it much more fulfilling. Like I really like the break in between like big projects, to like just spend 1 week animating something, and then the week is done, and then the project, who knows what happened with it. I found that sometimes refreshing, but for the most part, I realized that I like working with clients more. And then I saw models like what Seth Eckert has with the Furrow, and actually spent a bunch of time talking to Erica Gorochow at Blend, and I was like, tell me how you're doing this. Like, it sounds like you have something awesome. And she kind of like helped me out. And so that's kind of like where I'm going now. It's kind of like a solo studio with, maybe in the future it will be kind of like a very small full-time staff team, but it will be probably mostly me hiring freelancers and doing kind of like studio work, in the sense that a client can come and we can take it from beginning to end, but not so much as in like big studios, like at least not for the first few years, like just a solo small studio basically. And I'm hoping to launch that officially. And like, I mean, legally working as a studio more like as a year now, almost a year, not quite. In August it will be a year. But the official launch, I guess, where you'll see the name and hopefully a reel and a little piece that I've been working on. I'm hoping for it. I shouldn't even say a day, because everybody will be. Hopefully this year. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Within 2018. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's very exciting. I mean, your portfolio is absolutely first class, and what do you feel like? What are the components of good work? What does it mean to make good work? You certainly are someone we would look at your portfolio and think, man, he just makes good work. It's not your run of the mill kind of stuff. Is there a way to talk about it or encapsulate it down, or things that you try to think about when you start on a project?
I've been trying to like think about this more, because people are asking, kind of like, and I feel like I haven't really had an answer. But one thing is that I realize in my work, and especially when I'm directing other people, I can see it much more obvious, because I try to apply the same directorial principles to myself, which is a lot of trial and error, basically. Like last week, I was working on a project and I had to redo a shot like 10 times just because it wasn't there. And I feel like one of the main things that I've learned in this past, 10 years of animating is not being afraid of starting again a shot. Like it was like, oh well, I already built this, I already rigged it this way.
Yeah.
Well, then I will have to rebuild the next shot. It was like those are, I mean, sometimes you just have to because of the timing, but a lot of the times those are just excuses because you realize that it actually could be better, but you're just lazy not to do it. And I'm talking to myself there, and I feel like that's because I know some people that are like so incredible animators and designers that on the first pass or the second pass it looks incredible, like, and it's like they did it in like half a day, and I'm like, I have no idea how they did that. Like for me, it's a lot of like trial and error and like, okay, this is not good enough, start again. This is not good enough, start again. And I feel like maybe with people that I worked with before, they've seen that pattern as well. It's like, not there yet.
So it's a standard. You're speaking to a standard that.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's just like, it's just not good enough. We have to do it again.
Right, and I think that's evolved a lot. Like just by trial and error so many times, the standard just keeps getting better. At least that's the hope. Yeah. And I think that's one thing. And the other one is, for me at least, something that has helped me to get better at those things is something I say a lot. It's like trying to work with people that are better than me. So for me, the specific way that is when it comes to design. Like if I work with some designer that has some transitions in mind that I would have never thought of because I would say that's ridiculous or impossible.
Yeah.
Then it pushes me to kind of like do something outside my comfort zone. Like last week itself, I've been working with Yuki Yamada on a project, and he came up with some transitions that I'm like, this looks awesome. This is gonna take me a while to figure it out. And he did. It took me a long time, but I think I got it after some of the tries. But I wouldn't have pushed myself so much if I had come out just out of my mind, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, I think it does. I think the standard, and I guess it's this like little voice in your head that everyone has that you're not blown away by the shot. It's really not, I don't know, there's just something missing. I think years ago we talked about some piece you guys were doing for Play-Doh at Giant Ant. You did like a first pass stop motion test. And I think your phrasing in the video was like it was cool, but there just like wasn't like a magic to it, or you phrase it in some way of like it's hard to define precisely what it is, but you look at it and it's not as dynamic as maybe you would have wanted. And I wonder if it's healthier for your creative soul over time to like listen to the voice, be like, okay, no, we have to run it back or do something different, or I like how you say trial and error. I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like it's so easy to justify. It was like, well, then we wasted all that time.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, if you spend all that time to realize that wasn't working to make something better, it's not really wasted time, right? And you probably learn something from it anyways. I built that entire shot in After Effects and it took me 3 days. And I was like, you know what? This would be so much easier if I did it in cinema. And I was like, but then all the 3 days that I did will be wasted. I was like, doesn't matter. I'm sure there will be something that I grab from that After Effects saw that I'll be able to use it in the future or something. Just kind of be confident that it's okay to like a lot of people talk about trial and error, but I feel like for me it's more emphasized on the error. That like it's part of the process to like err and then like try again, I guess.
No, I think the more years I've spent in this business or in these disciplines and seeing people's work, and maybe you can speak to it, it is people spending the hours. It is people spending the time. There's very little difference between, I don't know, naturally talented people. Like people just sit down and everything they do is fantastic. I think it's, like yourself or an Ash Thorpe or other people, there's probably so much on the cutting room floor, so to speak, that people never see. And it really is just about some internal standard you're holding yourself to on the work.
Yeah, I agree. And that's something that I feel like that's the reason why I started One After Coffee in many ways. It was to remind me of a standard and to, pessimistically speaking, to make myself like, I'm not there yet all the time. So yeah, I think
Well, the Vimeo channel is a great service to the rest of us. It's nice. And I don't know how much time you spend on that or like how you go about curating that, but there's definitely a standard in that curation of whether the story is compelling or whether the design is really beautiful or whatever it is. So I know many people enjoy being able to follow that channel.
Yeah, it's been cool to see it grow. I mean, I started with Claudio when we were a buck. We were both interns at the time. And we're like, let's find a way to share all the videos in Vimeo. And then eventually it started growing. But that was the whole idea. And for example, Claudio is my go-to person to know like just like honest feedback on something. Like, he's one of those persons that he will tell you in your face if it's not good enough, and I so appreciate that. And
he's like the sweetest guy.
And I think
he'll
insult you in the face with a smile in his mouth and his big eyes.
Yeah.
Hi, Claudio. I don't appreciate much of this anyways. But if you don't know Claudio, go check out Claudio. But that standard and being honest about that standard. Because a lot of times it's like people, I don't know, I feel like when people, for example, share stuff to be posted on One After Coffee, I feel like they're just sharing it in the hopes that, okay, you'll see it and you'll post it just by any chance, but they're not really thinking about, like, I know that a One After Coffee piece will make it there when an email probably starts like I don't know if this is good enough for your channel. Like they kind of like know that there's a standard. Yeah. And a lot of times it's like the reality is that it's just not good enough. I mean, it's just the way it is.
So people email you trying to get picked.
Yeah, so we do have a submission email somewhere in there. I think it's kind of hidden, but the people that want it, they find it. I think it's somewhere awesomeness at oneaftercoffee.com or something.
Yeah.
So we do get a few there, and whenever we're not sure about it, I ask other people. I'll ask Claudio, and other people post stuff without me knowing. Like it's pretty self maintained, I guess. I don't know what I was saying with all this.
Are you the one doing it? You're the one who's like working on it each week, or do you and Claudio still split that?
Well, the thing is, like, anybody can do it, and if you're a moderator, if you see a video, you just have to click a check mark. And that's it. So, and it's actually impossible for me to know who put a video. Oh. So it's all a mystery. Like I make a rule to never post my videos, and we have like 3 rules that are kind of like vague. It's like, one is don't post your own stuff. If it's gonna be enough, if it's good enough, someone in the moderator team will find it and post it. The other one is don't post any demo reels unless they're like mind blowing. And usually those are like the big studio demo reels because those are like super solid. And then the third one is to kind of like keep it fairly family friendly. Like we don't want anything too crazy in there. So it's pretty basic rules, and you know, sometimes we have to take stuff down because it was a bit explicit or whatever. But you know,
Nice.
Yeah.
So I want to switch the conversation a little bit. Something I've been really interested in lately. And I think his name is Mitch Goldstein, a designer who I follow on Twitter. I think he's more like a traditional graphic designer, but he was doing this tweet thread to design students. And long story short, you know, you're going to learn design, you're going to learn the tools, all that. Then the hard part is deciding what matters eventually. Like you'll learn how to make things. That might be the easy part. Then it's a question of what to make. What do you spend your life on? What do you apply your skills to? And I just want to pose that question to you. You know, you have all these skills, but what matters to you? What drives you? What purpose do you feel you're living out with this work?
Yeah, what matters to you? Yeah. That was a video that got me a scholarship for VFS.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah, that was a. It's pretty bad, but you can still find it online. I think it's on my Vimeo. I think it might be my first video actually in there. It was my first official After Effects, like fully After Effects project. But the whole point of that piece was like, you gotta tell what matters to you.
Yeah.
Mostly because the VFS slogan means results matters, which I actually don't quite agree with. But that was kind of like the thinking behind it. And I think like for me, the most important thing is not work itself. Like that's just a means to an end in many ways, and which puts a lot less pressure in the kind of work that you do. So like if you get too caught up or too defined by the work that you do or how good your work is, I don't know, for me at least, like I can't see myself enjoying life that much if that's the case, because I know that I always feel unfulfilled by my work. Like it's never good enough. Like it's just like, and I hope it never will be. So for me, it's like kind of like a means to an end, and I try to use my skills for stuff that I like doing. So like I'll try to avoid super crazy commercial work unless it's like kind of fun and there's something interesting about it. Because I don't want to spend my life just animating Coke ads. Like I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but for me it's just not as interesting, especially after having animated this long. I feel like I want to be careful with the things that I choose to animate. So I would rather take a very lower budget with a project that is very interesting, or something that I care about, than super crazy profitable. And that's also easy for me to say right now because I don't have an overhead, like basically, right? Like it's when I completely understand why studios need to like make that step, because you're running a business. It's not really your own thing anymore. Like people's salaries depend on you, people's life depends on things like that. So I don't say, oh, they're evil because they're starting doing commercial work at all. I completely understand it, but as for me right now, it's and so I try to do work like that. I try to take on projects that will force me to work with other designers that I've been working with. Let's say this little project is like, oh, it's a great opportunity to work with Yuki. The budget means that I'll probably go all to Yuki, but that's fine because it's going to be like a really awesome project. It's going to be like a short project and stuff like that. Or like there's like a ministry church related project that might not have a lot of budget, but okay, this is really cool and I really like the message, and I believe in this, so like I'm gonna put my effort and time and money in this. And then those projects very often have brought on similar projects that actually pay. So I found most of the time it's rarely a lose situation, but it usually brings in something that makes it worth it even more. I know it's kind of broad, but that's kind of what I...
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I mean, you said it's a means to an end. The end is getting to work on things you believe in.
Live
your life and take care of your family and
that's exactly it. The reality is that like most of us animators, when we're in our deathbed, I don't mean to get too dark here, but it's not like, oh, I wish I animated that better. Like that'll probably be the last thing in your head, like it's like, who cares what you animated in 2014 and if you won the Motion Awards? I mean, I'm not saying those things don't matter. I want those things, but I'm just saying like putting things in perspective, right? And like for me, it is, a means to be able to spend more time with my family, and I'm a Christian, like to glorify God and things that I do, and like it's just that those kind of like much bigger ends, I guess. And
no, I think that is. I think it's important for all of us to consider those things, or else you can end up, depressed, or you'll just wake up one day and think, why did I spend all this time doing, doing work I don't believe in, or even working too much, like working 80 or 90-hour weeks for that Motion Award, and possibly neglecting the things that really are going to matter to us in the end, which is, the people we love and the people who really love us.
And I also want to say that that's not to say that there's not a time, because like, there'll be times that there'll be like this crazy project and I'll just sit down with my wife and say, okay, next week it's going to be insane. I probably, I'll try to come home, put the kids to bed, but after that, I'm going to get right back to work. Are you okay with this? Basically. And sometimes she'll make me wonder if it's actually worth it, right? It was like, well, what is this? Like, my wife's awesome. She's like the best business partner I could ever ask for. But she's like very honest about those things. And sometimes it makes me realize that it's not really worth it. And sometimes it's like, hey, this sounds like an awesome opportunity. Go for it, type thing. And, she'll help me make those decisions. And that way you're like knowing that you're going to be spending 80 hours, whatever. But it's a limited time. right?
Yeah.
Like you already put the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did in school as well. I came to VFS and I didn't have anybody here. Like I didn't really know anybody. And I was like, okay, I'm just here to focus on school. I'm gonna like spend a year just doing the best work I can do. And after that, I'm gonna, focus on other stuff. But like there's like, I feel like putting limitations to those extraordinary, whatever you want to call it, I feel like very important.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I think that's good wisdom. Something else I've been seeing on Twitter a lot is kind of a discussion around like ethical boundaries in our work. We have these skill sets, they can be used in various ways. Do you feel like you have some internal kind of drive to keep your skill set for things you can believe in? Have you ever had to turn away work of just like, I'd rather not promote that in the world. I'd rather not see that furthered.
Yeah, I do have a fair, I try to, stick to certain standard as well of that kind of work. Like there's certain projects that I just wouldn't touch at all. And that I've done, like, for example, when I was freelancing in Mexico, most of the ads were like beer stuff. And it's not like I love beer. I just didn't like the advertising industry in beer world, for example. Yeah. And I just decided, like I really rather not. I wouldn't go as far as saying this is wrong, but I just like I really rather not use my time promoting this advertising world, and that is just not. Yeah. Not. So I do try to stick to my principle as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I have turned down a fair bit of work, I would say. And a lot of the times it's actually not being, it's just timing wouldn't have worked anyways in the first place. But yeah, I do. And I know a lot of people like Sonder has very, very, very defined views, and he gave a talk on Blend basically all about that. And I think it definitely, I think is important. But at the same time, I don't know, like, I don't know if we can put too much importance in, I don't know how to say this. Like, I'm not the kind of guys that believes or would have posters in his wall that says designs can save the world, or like I don't have that much hope in what we do, I guess, in the sense. Like, I think it's an excellent way of communicating something. But, that's as far as it goes, like, like, it's not like if I make a video that is good enough, it's going to change people's minds. It's like, maybe, but I mean, that's not the goal. And then, but so I think you can go either extreme in the sense like, oh, I'm going to make this, going to change everyone's minds. And there's like, oh, I'm doing this other stuff that is like promoting the evil in the world.
Yeah.
I think you need to kind of look at yourself and what you feel convicted by, and just live by that in many ways, I guess. So if like I have a motion designer who's like working as an intern at a really crappy agency that all they do is, I don't know, Coca-Cola end tags. But that person is like, I'm not going to be here for a long time. I'm going to be here for whatever, this many years. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to make best curves I can on those whatever end tags. And then I'm going to try to go do something else or stay there. That's totally fair. Like I'm not going to look lower on those people because they're focusing on work. Ultimately, what we do is, I mean, we're not really the kind of artists that, we live by art. We do a lot of, like, most of the work that we do is commercial work, which means sometimes it's just work, and work is good.
Yes.
So,
no, I definitely enjoyed Saunders' presentation at the last Blend. He's quite utilitarian and believing he doesn't want to spend 1 second promoting one thing in the world that maybe he doesn't agree with, even if only nominally, even if just a little he doesn't agree with it. He'd rather put his efforts on other things, which I thought was interesting. And it's not something we tend to talk about a lot, because you're right, a lot of the times we're just, and it's hard to be choosy. It's almost a privilege to even say, like, not really interested. Most people just want the opportunity to apply these skill sets and make some money. And I think that's probably even a larger discussion about, there's people who just are uncomfortable with capitalism and the selling and the advertising things generally. I tend to take a softer line. I think for the ills of capitalism. Like we still need toilet paper and toothbrushes and shoes and like the banal, mundane things. And companies have a right to sell things to each other and communicate and all that stuff. But I think it's probably pretty easy. The ethical lines are pretty clear. It's like if Donald Trump wants you to do some insane propaganda, it's like, oh hell no, I'm not going to spend 1 second supporting this maniac. If it's someone who's got like a new soft drink, it's like maybe okay. Other than that, it seems pretty clear. If the company is doing damage in the world, you know, if you can.
Yeah, I think being mindful is very important. And really ask yourself why you don't like this given thing or why you are convicted against it. Like just being very honest with yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times you'll find that, you know, I sometimes I feel like we find excuses just because, well, I don't know how to say that. But what I was going to say is like a lot of times it's like if a project doesn't seem exciting from the get-go, we kind of like try to find excuses not to take it. But if there's one thing that I've learned a lot at Giant Ant is that even the not so exciting projects can be really exciting. Like you can make them really exciting and what you're going to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we just say no because it looks like work. You know, it doesn't look like fun necessarily.
Yeah.
When
maybe that's like ultimately the mandate of really good designers and illustrators and animators is to take the toothbrush company and make something really fantastic, because that's our role, is to bring that magic in the communications.
Right.
And I think that's what always made Giant Ant very inspirational. Is it's like a tire company, but you guys do just some total fantasy land, interesting art direction. And that really is the mandate. That's what the companies want, right? They say, we know how to make tires, or we know how to make toothbrushes. We need you artsy type people to come in and help us communicate better. All right, I'm going to get you out of here in a few minutes. Last thing, briefly, you know, you went to Vancouver Film School, so that was a 2-year program. I believe you did
1 year actually.
Oh, a single year. Oh, very good. Give us your general take. You've been in this industry for a long time. You've worked with a lot of different people. Are all the best people coming out of the art schools? Is it too soon to say you don't need art school because you don't technically need a degree? But are all the best people you're working with coming out of formal institutions?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and there's just a lot of disagreement on this in the community, I guess. Like, but like the 4-year program or like the 2-year program where there's like so much that you can learn. I can't speak from that because I never had a 4-year program. Like all I had was high school and then 1 year VFS. So I can't really give a completely comprehensive point of view on one against the other. But I can speak for myself that, you know, like a 1-year diploma, and it wasn't really a diploma or VFS for the matter. It was the fact that I was in the one room with people that were so much better than me, constantly pushing each other up. And that's the same that you're going to get in an office, basically, in many ways, in a, you know, a good environment. And that's for me much more like where I've seen the talent really shine. Like there's been people that come out of whatever, Wriggling or SCAD, and they have amazing portfolios, but it's not until like they are part of a team, like you can really see if they're really that good or actually maybe they're not. Like they're in school, they were great, but then after like they're like the teamwork, then it's kind of like hard. So I think like when someone comes to me, they're like, oh well, hey, should I spend 4 years here? I was like, well, personally, I wouldn't. And I mean, it also depends kind of where you come from, because I came from a background that I simply couldn't afford that. Like I went to VFS on a full scholarship because of that video. But otherwise, I would not have been able to afford a VFS, and I probably would have just kept kind of like freelancing, trying to get some work done. But there's some people that are like, you know what, I want to like go for 4 years and understand the entire history and learn all this classical and like understand compositions better. And a lot of people that have done that, they're like amazing. They're like really took advantage of that. But my usual advice is that you don't need that, especially if means, you know, are hard. Like I do people, you know, send people to MoGraph Mentor. I send them to like Learn Squared. I send them to like here's like I send them a list of all the places where they can learn stuff and all the little communities and stuff, because I feel like there's so much talent out there that can flourish without the whole institution thing.
Okay. Interesting. I thought you were going to say the opposite. I thought you were going to say, you know, all the people at Giant Ant or Buck came from those places, but it really is a new era where there's information's basically free. It's kind of all out there. Maybe you pay a little fee to get, you know, like a Learn Squared class or something else or something on MoGraph Mentor. But the proposition of hundreds of thousands of dollars seems tough to kind of stomach at this point, given just how accessible it all is. But
yeah. I mean, I know I'm not a big fan of the 4-year program in general. I am a big fan of one room with a bunch of other people that are pushing each other, though. If that's an internship, or like I said, if that's like what you guys are doing, that's
kind of the premise here. Okay, so before we get you out of one question from the chat here, are you going to be making a new MoGraph course for Learn Squared? Please be frank. Shoot us straight, Jorge. Is there another one?
See, I already said yes, so that's not really, I can't really backtrack on that.
Okay.
And now it's just a matter of when.
Nice.
But that answer is, I
don't know. Okay. Very good. Jorge, thank you so much, my friend. It's great to see you. We're excited to see the rollout of your studio whenever that comes this year. And have yourself a good week.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, bud. See ya.
See ya.